In this video, I'm going to share with you the one belief that is keeping you from sharing your story and ultimately growing your business. For those of you that are new here, I'm Devin Rodriguez, founder of Storypreneur, a company that teaches business owners how to leverage the power of storytelling to grow their business and engage their audience. Now you're wondering, what is this one belief? And I'll tell you right now because I don't want you to wait around. The belief that is holding so many people back and the belief that held me back for years and stopped me from sharing my message with the world is that I am an introvert. Now I know what you're saying, Devin, how dare you say that? Why is that a bad belief to hold? The reality is that it is not a bad belief, but it is what that label does to people that is bad. Now let me give you an example. Growing up, I was bullied for 6 years of my life, from 2nd grade to 8th grade. Every single day that I went to school, I was made fun of, I was bullied because of the color of my skin. And every time that I would go to lunch, I would sit alone. Every time I would go outside, I would sit alone. Every time I would try to do anything, I was just outcasted. Nobody wanted to be around me. And I came to believe that I was the world's biggest introvert. Why? Because whenever I tried to speak to somebody, I was put down, I was shamed, I was made fun of, and a lot of the times I was beaten up. Now guys, I'm talking about to the point where I would go home and cry in my pillow and say, God, why are you putting me through this? And it eventually got to the point where one day my parents pulled me aside and they said, Devin, we can't continue to watch you go through all of this. We want to send you to another school. Is that something that you would want? And I said, Mom, Dad, no, I want to stay here. And that was the moment in my life that kind of everything changed. And subconsciously, I didn't know it at the time, but I laid the foundation for my life that when things got tough, I wouldn't quit. Now here's the thing. For 6 years, I believed I was the world's biggest introvert. But as I grew older, my dad asked me a question that changed everything. He said, son, what makes you any different from anybody who's ever achieved anything great in this world? I was 15 at the time. I said, Dad, listen, I don't know. Save this for somebody that cares. Could I just go back to playing Call of Duty with my friends? He said, no, answer me. What makes you any different? I said, Dad, I don't know. They're just smarter than I am in school. I just don't know. And he said, never forget what I'm about to tell you. He went on to say, anyone who's ever achieved anything great puts on their shirt one arm at a time, just like you do. So what makes you different, son? And I said, Dad, come on. I just want to go back to playing video games. Can I leave now? He said, okay, you can leave. But has anybody ever said something to you that planted a seed within you and that seed just seemed to not be able to leave you until you watered it? In other words, what happened was I tried to put that thought out of my mind, but it wouldn't leave me. The next day I woke up and I asked myself the question, I said, what if he's right? Sometimes we have to borrow somebody else's belief before we can develop the belief that we have within us. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna figure it out on my own if I actually can achieve something great. So I went off to school, the one place where I could measure my results. At the time I was number 57 in my class, and within just three or 4 months, I don't remember exactly, one semester, I was able to go from number 57 to number 5. And it was at that moment that I realized that my dad was right, that I can achieve anything great. Now, why do I share this with you? Because once I understood that I could achieve anything great, and I had proven it to myself, I went on my personal growth journey. I started listening to all of these people's stories, and I was so inspired and motivated, and I made the decision that I wanted to use my voice to do for others what others had done for me, because other people's stories had changed my life. So I was at the place now where I wanted to use my story to change other people's lives, but I was an introvert. For my entire life, I grew up believing and owning the identity that I am an introvert. And for many years, it stopped me from taking that next step and ultimately using my voice as a tool to unlock people's futures. Now here's the thing, you might be in the position right now where you know that you have the desire to share your story, whether that's a personal story, your brand story. You know you want to share it, but you might believe that you are an introvert. You're scared to speak. Maybe you don't think you speak well. And all of these beliefs that you hold are stopping you from taking that leap. So let me share with you exactly what I did in hopes that maybe you can take 1 or 2 of these things and incorporate them in your life so that you can begin to share your story. The first thing that I had to do was I had to make the conscious decision that it was my time to leverage my voice. See, here's the thing. We're not going to be around forever. And I quickly understood this in 2016 when my grandmother passed away very suddenly. You see, a week before she passed away, she asked me to sleep over her house. I said, Grandma, listen, I got my internship in Manhattan. It's easier to go to my internship from my house than it is to go from your house, so I'll sleep over next weekend. Well, long story short, next weekend never came. Grandma died from a massive heart attack just 5 days later. And at that moment, and I was by her bedside, I grabbed her left hand as she was taking one of her last breaths, and I said, Grandma, I'm always going to make you so proud. And in that moment, I knew that if I was going to make my grandmother proud, I had to start leveraging my voice, because it is my duty, my obligation, I feel, to use my voice to impact other people. Now, if you're watching this, I know that you have a similar mission, that you were created for something bigger than yourself. So the first thing that I had to do was consciously decide to expand the vision that I have of myself. You know, all of these 3 tips that I'm going to share with you in these videos, 2 of them come from Zig Ziglar. He said people get to where they are because of 2 things, choice and training. But I changed it to choice, training, and environment. The first thing that I had to do was choose and decide that I was not going to allow who I had always been, an introvert, to dictate who I would become. So here's the thing. You being an introvert is not a bad thing. But I'd never met a woman in my life that said, I just had a baby, his name is Introvert. No, they say his name is blank or her name is blank. And I never heard a woman say, I gave birth to an introvert. It's usually a boy or a girl. It's never an introvert or an extrovert. So if we're not born with that identity, what happens is we develop the identity. And how does that happen? That happens through our choices, through the training that we have in our space. We'll talk about that, in our environment. And the crazy part about all of this is between the ages of 0 and 7, we form our beliefs on a subconscious basis because of everything that is around us. So the first thing that I had to do was, number 1, choose, because that's a number 1 step, is you have to decide that you're going to be leveraging your voice. Once I decided, I moved on to number 2, training. I knew that if I wanted to develop my voice, develop my skill, I couldn't do it alone. Because here's the thing, this is why coaches are so important, because you cannot see the picture when you're in the frame. The reason why I got a coach was because I knew that there was things that I couldn't see in me. And there were things that I was doing when I was speaking, sharing my stories. Guys, I thought I was the best speaker on planet Earth. But until I got a trainer, a coach, to show me how to actually tell a story in a compelling way that drove people towards action, I quickly realized I was really off, okay? So until I got that training, I didn't realize how much work I actually needed. So the first thing you got to do is make a conscious decision and choose that it's time to leverage your voice. Number 2, you have to get some type of training. I don't care if that's a course. Books are great, but the thing with books is that you don't get feedback. If you want to share your story, you need to get feedback, because remember, it's not always what you say as much as it is how you say what you say. Tonality, inflection, pause, pitch, all of these minute details make the world of difference, and they're actually more important than the words that you're saying. Number 1, let's recap. You have to decide that it's your time to leverage your voice. Number 2, you have to train with somebody who has a pair of trained ears and trained eyes, that they can give you feedback and actually refine your message. But the number 3 thing that you have to do is you have to surround yourself in an environment of people who have similar goals and similar visions as you do for your future. Because here's the thing, you ever heard the analogy of crabs in a bucket? As you try to grow to new heights and you try to do new things, what happens in a bucket with crabs, when one crab tries to escape the bucket, all of the other crabs go and try to bring that one crab trying to escape back down into the base of the bucket. And in a similar way, if you try to leverage your story and you say, now I want to share my story with the world, but you do it in the same environment that you've always been in, guess what's going to happen? They're going to say, how could you do that? You've always been so quiet. You're an introvert. Don't you know that the only people that can develop and into really good public speakers are those that have a natural ability? So all of their limited thinking will stop you in your tracks and revert you back to the old belief that, yeah, I'm an introvert, this isn't meant for me. So what you have to do is you have to find an environment with people who are on a similar mission. Because here's the thing, you're going to borrow the belief of the people that are around you, and you're going to want to act consistent with the people that are in that environment. So let me give it to you this way. The easiest way to lose weight is to start hanging out with a bunch of fit dudes or a bunch of fit girls. Why? Because you're going to be around them, and sure, you might feel a little uncomfortable, but guess what? They're going to drive you to start taking new actions, developing new habits, and having new practices. And in a similar way, if you want to share your story with the world in order to grow your business or just to impact more people, you have to put yourself in an environment of people that are doing that. Why? So you don't revert back to who you have always been. So just to recap, the one belief that is holding you back is that you're an introvert. Now, do we have natural inclinations? You might be a little bit more introverted or extroverted, sure, but it's the labels that we place on ourselves that are robbing us of the potential of who we could actually become. So the first thing we have to do is choose that it's time to leverage our voice. Then we have to get the proper training. And number 3, we have to surround ourselves in an environment that is going to enable us to flourish instead of holding us back and keeping us where we are. So it's time to shed yourself of the labels that are holding you back, develop a new belief, and start sharing your story with the world, because the world needs it. And when you do, your business is going to explode, your audience is going to be engaged, and you're going to be looked at as the trusted advisor that people want to lead them to the dream destination. So thank you for watching this episode so much. Go ahead and leave us a comment, a like, and subscribe to our channel down below. And if you are one of those people that have made the choice that you want to share your story, you want the training, and you want to be in a community, I'm going to leave you a link right down below where you can schedule a one-on-one call with our team to see if our training and our community is right for you. So look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for stopping in. See you on the next video.